pass to Leitner. Puts it up. No!
You're listening to the Culture State Podcast.
Get ready! Woo!
All right, Dennis, we have to do something different for Culture State this time around.
Yeah, we do.
We had a little taste of our first in-person interview, so we have to do this a little bit more.
Yeah.
So right now, we're in Raleigh right now off of Glenwood. We're at Capital BST, and my guys, tell me your names again.
Eddie Playton.
My name's Mike Cadwallader.
All right, so you're the owner. We're both owners here. Okay, so one of the spots in Raleigh where if you want to come get some crazy shoes, we'll show you a lot more throughout this. But Dennis, you were showing me their Instagram account, and they're very popular with the athletes here in the area, North Carolina and NC State, Duke. Before we talk about the actual shoe culture in North Carolina, you guys have been around for a while. How do you get around to where you're where the place where the athletes want to come and shop with you guys?
I think it's kind of happened over time. You know, we're really lucky to have State, Carolina, Duke, all the HBCUs with St. Aug, Shaw, just so many colleges in this area. And really, I would say they seek us out. They kind of find us. I would say we have what they're looking for, and they come in and we create a good relationship and do lots of business over time. Through doing that, we're able to meet their younger teammates, and it's kind of just a domino effect from there.
Sorry, my eyes watering a little bit.
Yeah, basically exactly what Mike said, and then also me and Mike being athletes ourselves growing up, playing sports, we generate to show a lot of love to athletes. The shoe culture actually grew up and, blew up back in the 80s when athletes wanted to be rappers wanted to be athletes. So that's why we always show love to athletes, to musicians, because unfortunately this wouldn't be what it is if it wasn't for them putting it in music, putting it on TV, wearing it out on the field. I feel like that's why we put that out and show them a lot of love.
So in recent years, how much have you guys noticed the shoe culture evolve and change when it comes to athletics and athletes? Just even in the last 5 years, it seems like, yeah, sock game was a big thing, but now it's like, no, what are you wearing on your feet? Not just your socks, but those shoes.
Definitely. In the last 5 years, I would say it's definitely grown. Social media, I would say it's definitely played a big part in that. And then I think also just now there's, Instagram accounts that are pointing out what, these athletes are wearing, their outfits, their outfits coming out of the tunnel and stuff like that. So I feel like it's definitely have elevated to a bigger stance, and athletes now just want to look good in front of the camera. So I feel that's a big statement now.
Yeah, I think it's everything Eddie said is on point. I think it's become almost more of a mainstream trend, whereas it used to be more of a niche thing. Now instead of, it's almost expected to have a nice pair of shoes, It's just changed a lot in that regard, and it's a lot more accessible to people now, and just a lot more people have gotten into the hobby and want a piece of it now.
Are you guys from Raleigh, from this area?
He is, I'm not.
Okay, so you grew up here. How old are you, or what age range? You have to tell.
No, you're good. I'm 33.
Okay, so I want to ask you then, growing up, how did you notice the shoe culture shift here locally as you were growing up, as athletes from Duke, North Carolina, and NC State started making bigger and better splashes than the years before?
Yeah, I think you're definitely right. We've seen it kind of blow up in this area recently. I think a lot of it has to do with the accessibility that I was talking about earlier. Like when we were growing up, part of the reason we wanted to start this store is because we love this hobby, but we didn't feel like there was really a place where we could go explore, buy, sell, trade. There wasn't really an area to do it at. So I think having stores and outlets to buy and sell these things has made it a lot more popular in this area. It's something we never really had when I was growing up personally.
Yeah. Where'd you grow up?
Miami.
Okay, so you're there with a lot of professional teams. Like the Hurricanes had to come here. You were born, they had a professional team there already. So, how did you notice the same thing in Miami as time went along?
Definitely in Miami, it's a little bit more popular. It was a little bit more mainstream than coming here. That was, like he said, one thing here just wasn't no access to it. That's why when I moved here, I was like, man, so much culture here, so much good hip hop, so much, there's a lot of roots in North Carolina, and there was nothing that like this here. But down there, definitely, seeing the shift, just going through the phases of the culture and seeing it blow up. But down there's so many people, so I feel like it's very, very spread, and it gets lost a little. You have a lot of designer, a lot of more higher end. But yeah, it's definitely, I would say it's changed throughout the years, and I feel like now it's hitting hard.
We definitely, I'll say when we started, we were kind of amazed that being that there's over 1 million people in this area, and it's the area where Jordan kind of originated from with his shot in UNC, and how much history we have with basketball and sneakers, that there was no like reputable sneaker store. And we were, we saw an opportunity there, and I think it's definitely worked out.
When did you all start noticing local athletes from the colleges start coming here? When did you start noticing them coming in your stores and starting being like, hey, wait a second, that's Paulo Banchero, that's Caleb Hood at UNC. Like, when did you start noticing those athletes start flowing into your store?
Our first week open.
Yeah.
All right. Our first week open in our first little spot, and I'm sitting there, and this is when we had like 2 people come in like in a matter of like 3 hours. So it's like, all right, we're sitting there hanging out, trying to figure out what to do, and and that was, I'm telling you, like the first week, and then Mike's like, that guy right there, he's the running back for the Chicago Bears. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, for real? Like, all right, so yeah, we saw it from the get-go.
Yep. Tariq was one of the first
Yeah, he
guys
was
to
one of
come
the
in.
first guys. So, it started from there, and then I feel like just the word spread between certain athletes.
Yeah.
Now you see a more influx in like bigger groups, but we've definitely have always seen it since that first week, and then we've always had like certain players that just always come back and see us.
Now, with the way college athletics has changed with name, image, and likeness, have you guys had any discussions with local athletes? I know you mentioned to me about Naheem Hines, possibly doing some stuff with him, but college athletes about, hey, come shop at this place.
Yeah, we have definitely have. We've done some work already with Drake and Thayer Thomas from NC State. We look forward to doing some more work with them in the future. Both great guys. Have some upcoming stuff with some Duke basketball stuff that we're excited to announce soon. So just stay tuned for that. We'll have some partnerships coming along soon.
Here's what kind of went through my mind as you guys were talking about that and how the athletes started to come in and word started to spread. You said this is the only place of its kind here in this area. It wasn't here before. A lot of those athletes are going to get Nike or Jordan Brand or Adidas sending them shoes, so they can come here and trade for shoes and get bigger, better shoes from you guys with that. Now you never know if you're walking around with like game-worn shoes from some player from Duke or Carolina. Has that been a part of you guys' business being here? People saying like, hey, this was a game-worn shoe.
Yeah, absolutely. Truthfully, a lot of the things out on that shelf are probably were owned by somebody who played somewhere. We don't necessarily advertise that, but you can be sure if you're buying a 15 or 16 or something like that, it's probably from a local athlete. But yeah, that's absolutely the case for sure.
Yeah, like example, we had a guy that bought a expensive pair of shoes, and when we brought him out, he's like, wait, they don't have a box and they're brand new, and it's like, well, these are owned by an NBA athlete, and he threw away the box, put them inside a glass case, and so, and it's like, that's the stuff that happens, and that guy's like, wait, who owned it? All right, I don't care about the box no more. So it changes it a little bit.
I wanted to ask something really quick about that. Like you mentioned the boxes, but I know NFTs are going to become a big thing, and Nike has already started, their process of trying to have NFTs along with shoes. So it's, I guess, the real thing, right? So right. Does that make it easier or harder for a business like this one to resell shoes?
I'm not big on NFTs, so I truthfully couldn't.
Okay.
I'm an old school art guy.
Do you know the concept?
I know the concept, but that's why, I've had an argument with it because I'm like big into like art and old school art, and that's why I feel like having a piece of art on my wall is a little bit more than having digital rights to something.
Right.
So I feel like having the actual thing is always going to be worth more in value.
But with the NFTs mirroring the actual pair of shoes, so that way when you resell, like in that way it could be an advantage. Maybe it boosts the price of the shoe, but then also like when you're getting it, this is like the legit shoe that was made.
I could see it being useful for that reason. Obviously, with the sneaker game increasing in popularity, counterfeiting has as well, and they're getting better at what they do. So obviously these big companies, Nike, and others have to do what they can to combat that and kind of stay a step ahead of them. So that might be a more complex way to differentiate their product and cut off some illegal counterfeiting of it.
It'll always keep happening.
Yeah.
We get people coming in, like they just see a StockX tag and stuff, and that's the thing. you can go on Amazon, you can go on Etsy and buy StockX tags and, receipts and stuff from these legitimate companies. So I feel like it could help, but also, like he said, eventually somebody's going to make something. And, and then I feel like it might be a gift and a curse, because then you're like, all right, this guy showed me this NFT. It's legit. Lo and behold, you didn't really look at it or know if it's real, or this guy just made it on his computer.
Not only do y'all sell shoes, but the trading. I'm a comic book person. I buy, I trade, I collect comics. When did trading and selling in shoes become a thing?
That's actually a really good question.
It smells too bad.
Yeah.
It's like,
I mean, we're definitely a little more selective with the used shoes we buy for that reason. But yeah, growing up, that was never a thing. You bought a shoe, you wore it, and when it was done, you threw it away or gave it to your cousin or whatever it was. But I think over the last 5 years, shoes have become more of a tradable commodity. Mm-hmm. People see them more so like a comic book. Somebody told me that to this era, shoes are kind of like their sports cards, if you will. Instead of going and getting a guy's sports card, you'll grab his shoes. Granted, people are back into sports cards now, so that might not make as much sense. But those are my thoughts. I forgot the original question.
I would say I see some of the used shoes you guys have, and they look like they're basically brand new. I've looked at some of them. I was like, wait, this is used? How do you guys go about assessing what you want to buy off of somebody to resell?
So when it comes down to it, most of the time it's going to be on what the market is moving and whatnot, especially with the used shoes, because we've seen also like Jordan 1s. Jordan 1s were hot for a while. Even selling at high margins at used, and then now we're seeing them that they're just not really selling. And then especially used, a lot of people don't want to buy them, especially when you're talking about $350, $400 for a used Jordan 1. Who wants to spend that on a used shoe? So we have to basically see what's really selling in the market at the moment, and then it comes down to what sizes or what we have on there. That's just knowledge and knowing what's going to move and what's going to go, and then just basically what's that shoe selling for, if there's actual going to be a good margin or it's going to be priced too high to even sell.
So somewhat of a guessing game in there too.
For sure.
I've been here many times. Speaking of Jordan 1s, I'm wearing a pair right now, low-top Jordan 1s that I bought from here. Chris has never been here before, but you never know. He might walk out with a new pair of shoes today.
We have a storage unit also that's full of goodies, I don't know if they're going to come out in this store, our next store, but have a ton of inventory that is not out.
Okay, so another store is coming?
We hope so.
We hope so. It's been in the works. Yeah. We got some things to nail down and been working on. So once we get those things nailed down, hopefully we'll be on that second store.
Now, are you looking to stay in Raleigh, or would you guys look to maybe expand out towards Durham, Chapel Hill to hit that market too?
We were actually looking out of the state to hit a bigger market, something like New York, Miami, something of that sort. It's been leaning towards Miami, since there's not too much saturation there compared to like New York or LA. But yeah, it's been in the works. We have ideas. We have everything ready. Just gotta nail down, everything here. Make sure our baby's taken care of before we go anywhere.
Yeah, this store will always be the flagship. It's not going to go anywhere. This will always be our home and our kind of home base. But we definitely like to expand and make Capital BST more of a national brand in the future, for sure.
Well, you're making a big local brand. Well, let's actually take a look at what you guys have over here. Now, I'm going to stick over here in the 12.5, 13 range, because that's the size that I wear. Now, all the stuff that I see here on the shelf, I'm assuming this whole wall is all new stuff, correct? Now, I see over here stuff that's not in plastic is used, stuff that's been selling, trading. Why the plastic? Is that just to preserve it, like while it's on the shelf?
To protect it, main thing. So we learned our first lesson about 8 years ago before we even had a store, and we did sneaker shows. And we went to a sneaker show and had a nice fresh pair of white, Jordan sitting there, and this guy walks up with some Cheetos and let me check these out. So ever since then, we learned our lesson: protect your new goodies. Especially our high-end merchandise, our T-shirts, stuff like that. We want to make sure. You don't want to come buy a brand new shoe and then somebody put their dirty hands or something on there. So also it's just protect it, make sure it stays the way, brand new, and you get, you're buying something that's not been messed up.
All right, and I see this design here a lot. These the Dunks?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so is that a pretty popular one? 'Cause I see this in a lot of different colors, a lot of different sizes. So, like, what is it about this style that is just an in thing right now?
Want to hit that?
Yeah, so the Dunks, they've actually been around forever, since the 80s. There's been a ton of different models of them. And I would say what made them blow up recently is influencers, honestly. Social media, people that are influential in the sneaker game. A lot of celebrities and musicians that are influential in the sneaker game started both collaborating with Dunks and making their own Dunks and then wearing Dunks. So it's actually a sneaker that for the 5 years we've been open has been pretty dead value-wise. It's not something that really had a lot of demand behind it, but this last year, that's one thing you'll notice in the sneaker game is trends go hard, and when the right shoe starts trending, the value and demand shoots up. So we've definitely seen that happen with Dunks this year.
Well, I know you mentioned earlier Jordan 1s used to be a big thing. I have a pair of them, but now I guess it's kind of tapered off. The Dunks have kind of taken over a little bit.
Very much so. Very much so. I would say definitely the Dunks have definitely taken over. And then also, like everything that Mike said, and then just basis that it was the anniversary of the Dunk. So Nike being, the superpower they are, they take that into, consideration, and being the anniversary, they have just pumped out numerous colorways this year. So by doing that, also knowing that it's hot, people are buying them, all age groups, ladies, mothers, everybody's wearing them. So, and then by pumping out so many colorways, you're just giving everybody so many options. So of course they're going to buy them up.
All right, speaking of Nike, I see a lot of Nike on this wall. Now I do see some New Balances, but are you guys predominantly just Nike selling these? I mean, I see some Jordans. Oh yeah, here's some Yeezys over here. Okay.
Yeah, they're gonna be Adidas. So.
All right, so you got a few Adidas and stuff. But again, I see a lot of swooshes and I see a lot of Jordan brand stuff up here.
So when it comes down to it, unfortunately, they're just the juggernauts right now. We love variety. One thing, me and Mike, when we first opened our first store, and if you look at our first pictures, ask anybody who went there, we had Reeboks, we had everything and anything. You go into our own personal collections, and we have every single brand, everything. We don't discriminate. We love shoes, and we try to keep a variety of different models, brands, and so forth, but unfortunately, when it comes down to it, is we have to just play with the market. And like I said in the beginning, that right now that Jordan will always be on top. They're just like a name brand, people.
Especially in this area.
Yeah, people always buy them. But right now, Nike, man, they just control, and they're just pumping out what's hot.
When I'd say like 5 or 6 years ago when we opened, this is going back to the trends in the sneaker game, you would have probably looked at our wall and said the exact opposite. You would have said, you guys got a lot of Adidas and not too much Jordan. And at that time, Kanye West had just gone over to Adidas. They had just debuted the Boost technology, and they had a lot of momentum. But things change really quickly as far as what's popular, and that's one thing we have to stay on our toes is knowing what the people want and stocking accordingly.
All right, I want to take it over here to the trading section and everything that's over here, and some of the used stuff.
Player PPs that we were talking about.
Okay. All right, so
Shoes.
these are actually from a UNC player, probably.
Yeah, so these are trainers that they give to the players, and only to the players, so you couldn't get this colorway anywhere, any store. And then, we had a player come in, trade them in for something else, and now they're here on the wall, and any regular UNC fan can have a pair.
All right, now I'm curious about this. So how often do you all get people that are coming in looking for a UNC specific either shoe color, like the actual brand on there, or Duke or State? How often does that come up for you guys?
So just general colorway, I would say a lot, just because where we're at, especially when it comes down to basketball season, football season.
Duke Carolina week, you get a lot of people in the week of Duke Carolina coming in, trying to get a Duke colored sneaker, trying to get a Carolina colored
Is this
sneaker.
going to be the idea too? Like you're talking about expanding to Miami. Idea down there too, get a couple of Hurricanes players to maybe come in with their unique colorways.
Absolutely.
No, definitely want to do that. But also, that's a twist. If we go somewhere else, we want to bring Carolina there, and also represent there and show. Of course, we're gonna represent the local, but we want to make a staple and bring some flavor and bring our teams down there.
All right, I want to take again a gander at some of these other shoes that you see here. Now, I remember these from when, like, middle school, like, the Air was, like, the Air written on the side was huge. I had a buddy of mine that had black, the white Air on the side. Do you see these retro styles starting to come back and surface up? Because it seems like nostalgia is such a big thing. I'm in my mid-30s as well, so nostalgia is a huge thing. Do you guys see that coming back, too, with the trends?
For sure. Even with the dunks this year, you know, they'll bring stuff back from other eras that may not have been as popular, and sometimes it's even more popular when they retro it. Some of the 90s retro stuff, we're starting to feel old now because the kids in the store don't really know about the retro 90s stuff, and that's what we grew up on. So yes and no. If it's too old, a lot of our clientele just doesn't know about it, to be honest.
I didn't think about it like that. Like, basically, the shoes are so timeless that, like, kids who haven't had a chance to rock these want to rock them now.
All these young kids, and they're like, and then us three walk in here, us four, and we're like, yo, I had these in sixth grade. You know? So it's a big difference.
All right, Cam Kelly, UNC safety, here shopping at Capital BST right here in Raleigh.
Yes, sir.
Why are you coming all the way from Chapel Hill to Raleigh to buy shoes?
Oh, this the best spot. From trading to buying anything, got new releases, shoes that aren't on the market, and they look out, and they got good people here, good relationships, and I wouldn't trust anybody else with shoes.
So what is it about the shoe culture that just kind of grabs your attention?
I mean, you always gotta step out and be fresh. So, like, especially like being at UNC too, Jordan school, always trying to look for some Jordans to add to the collection. So,
all right, now what is it about, again, this store, like what they offer, like what makes it just kind of fun being able to look around here, just shop around, just find something that you know that fits your style?
Oh, facts. The variety is a huge thing because I can come in looking for something like specific, but then also look around and see like a Carolina blue, a little player edition shoe. I'll be like, oh wow, oh yeah, I'm about to have those, or I need those in my collection. Like some that nobody else can get. And then also like the relationships here, like that I have with Mike and Eddie and them. Just I've been shopping with them since my freshman year, and been doing business with them ever since.
So you ever bring any of your teammates, football teammates, basketball friends, any other athletes you bring over here?
Oh yeah. From the basketball team, like the men's basketball team, they come here. The women's basketball team, they come here. They were just up here like last month too. And then the football team definitely comes up here. So yeah, it's just nothing but love for the athletes out here.
Yeah. See, and that's the biggest thing too. That's why like we don't really put a lot out for sale because a lot of people that do want player-worn shoes and so forth, they're always looking for that big name. They want, is that, who's that worn by? Is that the Zion shoe? Is this worn by this person? So, and then of course, they want it for nothing. So, sometimes we have to tend to stray away.
We'll give you 200.
Right?
Yeah. No, you won't. Yeah, 200 with another number in front of that, too.
Exactly.
Now, I'm curious, when you do get these in, because they are exclusive, they're coming from Carolina, they're coming from Duke, or they're coming from State, they are exclusive shoe. How do you go about pricing something like this? Because it's not just an ordinary Jordan 1 that's just plain white with a gray swoosh on it.
It's hard. That's a really hard thing when it comes down to it, especially most of the time when the shoe is just given to them. There's no market on it. Nobody's posted up a pair for sale. Eventually, there is people that will put them out on the market, and then that's the hard part too, because there'll be like 1 or 2 pairs out for sale, and it's a crazy amount, and it's not realistic. So that's when we, as professionals, as people that have been in this, in this game for a period of time, we have to sort of make that judgment, and then also describe it to these guys too, and explain to the players, what you see on the internet sometimes is not what you're really going to get. People on eBay put crazy prices. It's all about what the person's going to buy, especially also when you're talking about a size 17 shoe. Nobody really wears that size, so nobody's going to buy it. It's going to be a shelf piece. So, nobody really wants to spend a ton of money on something they're just going to throw on a shelf unless, A, it's worn by somebody important or it's signed and so forth.
That's, yeah. Because I'm looking at some of the stuff that's in here, and I'm like, I see numbers on a shoe. I mean, yeah, I'm definitely seeing obviously the logos. Like, yeah, these are these are exclusive. These were probably worn by somebody who is way taller than me. That's the only way I can think about it. But I'm sure, again, during rivalry week, like you said, people are coming in. They want something of that style because they want to rep their school.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's why we always have people always come in. They'll see the ones, the player issued ones with the branding on them, and they definitely want those. And they're like, oh, I would definitely want to wear these for the game and so forth. Then you let them know what they go for, and they're like, yeah, I'm all right.
Yeah. And I see Marquette. I see Sharif Abdur-Rahim. I know you guys also not only just have shoes, you guys have a ton of just vintage clothing and stuff back here. How do you guys go about collecting all of this stuff that we see back here? I see shirts in plastic. I got old jerseys, starter jackets. How'd you guys come about adding this to your inventory just on top of the shoes that you guys have?
So when we first started, actually, me and Mike were really heavy into vintage. And that's what our main purpose of our first stores, mainly vintage. Since we knew the culture and, love sneakers, it was also preserving. One thing I'm really big on, and like I mentioned before, is like the roots, where this all came from, where it all started. So I like preserving old stuff and just showing, the new kids and the new people into the game, where this all came from, where that shoe was inspired by and so forth. So a lot of it comes from us thrifting, and that's how we started, just going to thrift stores, traveling, going to estate sales and trying to find stuff that people thought it was lost cause, and we see it as gold because it's bringing back something that nobody's seen for a while. And then we walk in here and it's like, man, nice 1992. I remember that tour. I went there, so it's like bringing back that memory. So that, and then also being a buy-sell trade, we get a ton of people bringing it in, and then just the thrifting culture has grown. And a lot of kids, see the money in it. So they go thrifting, they go find stuff, they'll bring it into here. And, hey, if you can make a couple dollars on that dollar you spent, it's good for them. And then we get to preserve something and put it back out and show people.
All right, we want to thank the guys over at Capital BST for having us along there. And it was great running into Cam Kelly at UNC while we were there at the shop, representing Chesapeake, Virginia, right? Okay. So all the people in Virginia like to come to North Carolina for a better opportunity. We get it. We understand.
Hey, I totally understand. Why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't they? Yeah. That's the way I like to think about it. But it was really cool because actually you saw some other athletes. You saw some athletes from NC State while we were there as well. We didn't actually get a chance to talk to them, but it was actually cool seeing athletes from all these different places come together.
We shouldn't have said that. We shouldn't have said that because now the NC State fans are going to be like, see, they hate NC State. Why did they talk to the NC State guy? They talked to the UNC guy.
It's fine. It's okay. I didn't know who the NC State guy was, but it's fine. The way the culture with shoes and how it's blended its way into sports and hip hop, it's grown a lot, and it really is fun to see. And one of the big spots on the East Coast, especially in the Mid-Atlantic region, is right here in Raleigh.
It's big time, and to see, how North Carolina is being a part of this transition. Like, if you look back, if you go like 10 years from now and then you look back, you're going to notice that spot right there is going to be very important to a particular shift in the culture, especially as NIL becomes a bigger thing amongst athletes, especially as, shoe collectors become a bigger thing. I mean, these guys have shoes from athletes that they don't even put out there on the rack.
Yeah.
I'm just going to leave it at that, right? Because, at some point when somebody goes into the Hall of Fame, they can all of a sudden whip these out and say, hey, we have the practice shoe from such and such from this school. Why don't you pay us $50,000, $100,000, $1 million for these shoes? And somebody will actually pay that. We don't want to leave NC State fans out. They might have a Manny Bates shoe as well. So thank you guys for listening to the Culture State podcast. Please give us 5 stars, and we would love it if you gave us a follow at Culture State Pod on IG and on Twitter. You can follow me at Chris Lee TV. You can follow my man Dennis Jamel Cox at
The Fan Rookie.
And check him out on TikTok because, he's that guy on TikTok. You know what I'm saying?
I'm sure. By the way, if you listen to this episode, we encourage that you go watch this at 99.9 The Fan's YouTube page.
Yes.
We are in the store talking to these guys so you can see the shop and everything, see all the shoes. It really is a good time.
The Culture State Podcast, part of the Capital Broadcasting Podcast Network, with new shows coming out every Wednesday. Download and subscribe from wherever you get your podcasts, including the WREL Sports Fan app.